Well, hello. Welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. And welcome to all the new people that we have, all the new subscribers, both on YouTube and over on Patreon. We enjoy having you here, and I tell you, every time we put out a new video, I see more and more comments, and we love that. And the quality of the comments on this channel are just exceptional. You all participate in this, and as this isn't just a channel for me to be talking. It's a channel that gives the opportunity for those of you who would like to and have deep enough thoughts, which is most of you, I can tell, to kind of chat about the things that we talk about here and to share your opinions, which I have found to be very informed and valuable. So if you are one of our newer people that have joined us recently, I encourage you, don't just listen to what I say, read the comments down below, because you're going to find some jewels of wisdom there. And if you'd like to support the channel, and we love that and we appreciate that, feel free to come on over and join us on our Patreon channel. The link's down there, and you can become a patron, and for just $1 a month or whatever you'd like. And I should say special recognition and thanks. I won't call you all out by name, but I know that there are a number of you who have pledged quite a bit more than the $1 a month. We appreciate that. We don't ask for that, but we certainly appreciate that, because as this channel continues to grow, it's going to allow us to do a lot more and take the fight out there, and you're a part of that, and we thank you. Other than that, this is brought to you, this program, this episode, whatever you'd like to call it, is brought to you by my first book, The Reversion, the first book in the Stonemont series, and my last book. That's not my last book, it's my most recent book, The Blessings of Freedom, which is the fifth book of the Stonemont series. Number 6 is well underway. I was just writing some of it this morning. What happened here? What happened to my computer? Let me see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we're back to it. So if you would, they're available in both paperback and Kindle from Amazon, and I always put the link down there if you would like to read those. Okay, you all, I know, have been paying attention to the news, because you are a well-informed audience, one of the smartest, if not the smartest, probably, in YouTube land. So you know what's happening. I want to talk about just a few stories here. We could talk about the craziness if we wanted to. This isn't really a day for the crazy. I want to address a few of the more serious aspects here that probably a lot of people know of. There's one that probably a lot of people don't know of, and that's, I'll hold that off to the last one. I think that's going to surprise some people and tell you really what kind of a mess we are in. If you don't already know what kind of a mess we're in, you're gonna know more at the end of this. So anyway, you've seen what's going on at the grocery stores and the gas pump, and the prices are just exploding. Inflation has taken a hold of us by the throat and has had us for quite some time. We know that that's going to cause continuing problems, especially for those people who are living on the margins, right? And the closer you live to the edge of your money, the more that inflation kills you. And this is why when these people play around with these games that they do nationally, internationally, whatever, and they try to maintain that they care about the people, they don't care about the people. They couldn't care less about the people, because the people that are getting hurt the most are the people who can least afford, a few more pennies at the gas pump and, a doubling of a loaf of bread. And so many of these people have children, and it's the children who suffer. So as far as I'm concerned, to be involved in and to allow the things that have a negative effect on the economy like they have had here, it's a moral issue as far as I'm concerned. It is immoral to allow this economy to collapse the way that it is, because it's actual people, it's individuals, it's children being hurt in the process. And they'll blame it on somebody else, and sadly, the majority of people will believe what they tell them, but you and I know that it's not the truth, and to the extent that we can get the word out there, we really should. Which reminds me, please share these videos with your friends. We appreciate that also. The first thing that I'm going to bring up here is that President Joe Biden has warned us of a real food shortage following sanctions on Russia. Okay, you know, this isn't really a preparedness channel. I do that over on integrative preparedness, but when we're talking about what's happening with America, there's a danger that's coming with us. We've been talking about food shortages for a long time over there. We saw what happened, you know, during the great toilet paper shortage, and we saw the empty shelves and all of that, and we started seeing the prices rise, but nothing compared to what we've seen in the last month or two. So he finally came out and said what we have all known, and I'm going to be reading here from a Fox News item, and it says, President Biden said Thursday that a food shortage is gonna be real, quotes, following the sanctions that were placed on Russia by the U.S. government as a result of Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Okay. So he says, with regard to food shortage, yes, we did talk about food shortages, and it's gonna be real, he said in a conference at the NATO summit in Brussels. How eloquent. With regard to food shortage, it's going to be real. Well, you know, we've known that, and we've known that inflation has taken its bite, which is already causing a food shortage for those who can't afford the increases, right? But here's what he says. The price of the sanctions is not just imposed, get that, imposed, that's an important word, not just imposed upon Russia, he added. It's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. Well, let's forget the fact that he can't express himself grammatically. But he wants to say it's imposed on other countries, including European countries and our country. Interesting that he didn't say that other countries would suffer, you know, and it shows that they knew exactly what they were doing with this. By putting these sanctions on, it wasn't just hurting the people they claimed they wanted to bring into line. They knew very good and well it was going to hurt Americans, just like Jimmy Carter's embargo on grain to Russia. Russia got their grain from someplace else. Do you remember who it, those of you guys who are old as I am, remember who it hurt? It hurt American farmers. Okay, so he imposed those. Biden said Russia and Ukraine have been the breadbasket of Europe in terms of wheat, and he insisted that he and other leaders had a long discussion in the G7 about the need to increase and disseminate food products. Well, you know, in addition to that, we talked about, this is him continuing, about urging all European countries and everyone else to end trade limitations on sending food abroad. And so we are in the process of working out with our European friends what it would take to help alleviate the concerns relative to the food shortages. Okay, big shortages are coming down the road. Big shortages are already here for people who can't afford it, and inflation is going to continue to rise. Let's go to the next story here. This is one that caught my attention. Now, the immediate story and the immediate headline will be interesting enough. But what else will be interesting is what we find out a little bit later. And this comes from the American Military News. They're not the ones that I at first heard it from, but this is from their cybersecurity. And the headline is, Russian spies hacked Kansas nuclear power plant, feds say. Now, I know all of you out there on the coast going, Kansas? Why would they go after Kansas? Or they probably think that out here in Kansas, it's just a guy chewing on a straw in charge of the cyber security. Maybe that's what, I remember a James Bond movie one time. I don't remember what it was, but it was one of the villains, you know, one of the villains that looks a lot like Klaus Schwab. And he said something about they were going to destroy, with a space weapon that they had commandeered, and they were going to shoot a beam of something or other down here, and they were trying to decide, what city they were going to take out. And they made the comment, we could do it here or this or Kansas. He said, if we did it in Kansas, nobody would hear about it for years. A little joke. Those of us in Kansas don't mind that because we live such an excellent lifestyle here in Kansas that we can kind of laugh with the jokes and hope that other people don't find out how good it is to live here. Let me read the article. The U.S. Department of Justice announces charges on Thursday against 4 Russian nationals, 3 of which were government spies, and a pair of, we assume that's Russian government, but who knows, and a pair of hacking campaigns in the U.S., including the hacking of a nuclear power plant in Kansas. Now, this one out here, have they already said? It's Wolf Creek nuclear power plant. It's about 60 miles southwest of me here. Its nuclear cloud will float right over me, depending on what kind of year, if it melts down or gets hit. One indictment specifically charges Russian nationals Pavel Alexandrovich Akulov, Mikhail Mikhailovich Gavrilov. The only reason I did this story is because I love pronouncing Russian names, right? And Marat Malarievich Chukov, with a series of computer intrusions and supply chain attacks. Here's the kicker. Between 2012 and 2017. So this started 10 years ago? And ended 5 years ago? Why are we just hearing about it now? Well, first off, that shows you that we don't hear about the things that happen. And secondly, it shows that naturally, this is a political thing that they're using. Russia's bad now, let's throw this in here. And let everybody know that Russia was trying to hack the nuclear power plant in Kansas. Let's read on, shall we? Prosecutor said that Gavrilov, Valerievich, and Chukov were all members of Russia's government spy agency, the Federal Security Service, the FSB, and worked in a hacking team called Military Unit 71330, or Center 16. All foreign Russians remain at large, so they haven't caught them. They're out there somewhere. Who knows? Who knows where they are? But there's going to be an opportunity for you all in this here. Hey, buddy, how you doing? How was school? I'm shooting a video, but I'll be done in a few minutes. My second son just walked in the house. Looks like my first son just turned back around to go pick up the first daughter. It's great to have kids that can take these responsibilities off the old man. And, well, not off of me. I shouldn't say that because Kelly does most of it. Okay. One indictment. Okay, so we found out where they worked. The Russians allegedly carried out their hacking campaign on U.S. energy companies in 2 phases. The first phase targeted supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA, systems of energy companies. The hackers allegedly planted malware on SCADA software updates. Prosecutors say through this effort, the Russians installed malware on more than 17,000 different devices in the U.S. and abroad between 2012 and 2014. In the second phase, the Russians allegedly used the widespread compromised SCADA systems to target more than 3,300 users and more than 500 U.S. and international companies with varying degrees of success. One successful effort targeted the business network of the Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Corporation, Wolf Creek, in Burlington, Kansas, right out here. According to the indictment, in May 2017, the Russians sent numerous spear-phishing emails within the nuclear power company's network. They compromised several employee accounts and used those compromised accounts to spread malware files and scripts throughout the company's internal network. In addition to Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Corporation, the Russians targeted the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission and additional Kansas power companies like Westar Energy and Kansas Electric Power Cooperative. I would imagine that, this was a test. They probably figured that maybe I don't know. I won't even go there because I don't know. I would be, conjecturing. Prosecutors said Gavrilov, Valerovich, and Chukov hacking efforts were in furtherance of the Russian government's efforts to maintain surreptitious, unauthorized, and persistent access to the computer networks of companies and organizations in the international energy sector, including oil and gas firms, nuclear power plants, and utility and power transmission companies. Well, I don't think they had to go to all that work. I mean, all they would have had to do is ask our current administration just to shut them down, right? Just shut them down, or get some greenies out there to say it's bad, shut them down, and I'm sure they would have been happy to. They didn't have to go to all the complexities of all this stuff. Let's see if it, of course, the Department of Justice is committed to the pursuit and prosecution, blah, blah, blah. They're going to, yes. If there's something here, well, there was something here. I don't know. Anyway, I think there's a U.S. State Department announced on Thursday through the Rewards for Justice program. The Rewards for Justice program. They throw justice in there. A reward of up to $10 million for information leading to the identification or location of Akulov, Gavrilov, or Chukov. The State Department announced a similar $10 million award for information leading to the identification or location of Gladkich. Okay, so if you know these guys, if they're living next door to you, or they come to your daughter's soccer games or anything like that, call the feds. You can make yourself a quick $1 million. Okay, here's the one that most people probably aren't familiar with. Republican leaders push bill to import nurses and not train Americans. Sometime back, shortly after I left the hospital, I realized that yesterday I started to cross my arms and I forgot that I had this mic on. Maybe I'll move it up here because I kind of relax when I do that. And I muffled it. I'm sorry. Shortly after I left the hospital, or after they asked me to leave because I wouldn't do what they wanted me to do, to be a good little doobie, and shoot myself up with whatever concoction they assured me was in my best interest. I think I said over on integrative preparedness, I mentioned all of the foreign nurses that were being shipped in. And I worked at a major hospital for the most part. And it was just amazing because so many of the top-notch, they lost, the particular hospital I worked at, they lost the majority of their top nurses. And so they had to refill, and they refilled it with traveling nurses and what they call agency nurses, but they had to bring in a lot of other people. And there were nurses coming in from China and India and Africa, and you couldn't understand half of them. And that's not saying anything about them as people. They could have been very fine people. Not all of them were, I'll tell you. Some of them were just mean as could be. They didn't care about people, but that could also be applied to some American nurses that I know. So it has nothing to do with the fact that they didn't come from America. But here's the problem. And I'll let me read this, and then I'll get back to that problem. Republican, and where is this from? This is a Breitbart article. Republican and Democrat legislators want to help hospital chains import at least 25,000 extra foreign nurses, even though tens of thousands of Americans are being denied places in underfunded nursing schools. That's right. It's all about the money. If there's one thing I hear from my hospitals in Texas, it's the shortage of nurses because of the burnout factor associated with the COVID-19 and the like. That's right. Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn said in March 15th hearing, now hospitals are having to pay incredible multiples of what they originally would pay to nurses to contract with companies that basically will provide the travel nurses. That's just what I was saying. The foreign nurses should get U.S. nursing jobs because not enough Americans are interested in nursing careers, said a statement from Representative Tom Cole of Oklahoma. Federal resources are scarce and inadequate to finance an expansion of our medical training system, he said. The number of Americans interested in pursuing healthcare professions has unfortunately not kept pace with the growing demand, so has allowed skilled So allowing skilled foreign medical professionals to practice in the U.S. is a suitable alternative. While I wish more Americans were choosing to pursue education and professions in the healthcare field, I'll tell you about this in a minute, the reality is that our country has taken a serious, oops, I did something. While I wish more Americans were choosing to pursue education and professions in the healthcare field, the reality is that our country has a serious labor shortage and simply cannot fill the demand. So I'm not going to read all down through here, but there were more, as I read this yesterday, there were more Republicans than Democrats signing up for this bill encouraging the importation of foreign nurses. I'll tell you why. So just for you all, I'm going to tell you the bill is co-sponsored. I'll read the Republicans here. Yeah, for now, 13 GOP senators and at least 12 Democrat senators are sponsoring the new bill that would import at least 25,000 foreign nurses for stable careers that would otherwise go to young Americans. And that came from the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act. Would create green. Oh no, that came from someplace else. That's the name of the act. The Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act would create green cards for at least 25,000 foreign nurses. The Workforce Resilience Bill is sponsored by Cornyn, a Republican of Texas, Senator Todd Young, Republican of Indiana. I'm going to read you each one of these, so if any of your people are in there, you'll know. These are all Republicans. Kevin Kramer, North Dakota, Rob Portman, Ohio, Joni Ernst, Iowa, Bill Cassidy, Louisiana, John Boozman, Arkansas, Roy Blunt, Missouri, John Thune, South Dakota, Mike Round, South Dakota, Tom Tillis, North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, and Rand Paul of Kentucky. I am surprised at Rand. But anyway, I'm surprised that our Kansas senator's on there. There are a couple of buffoons. Here's the problem. Excuse me for slurping. It's just the way that I drink. My last week at the hospital, I spent a lot of time in the ER. We always spent a lot of time. I was with the security department. We always spend a lot of time in the ER because that's where the problems are. And over the last few years, we've had just an unbelievable increase, or they had an unbelievable increase in violence in the ERs. Overdoses, either accidental or purposeful, suicide attempts, drunks, well, it was starting to look like an inner city hospital, and it had at one time been a kind of a country club hospital. It was getting pretty bad. Because of the little thing that dealt with the last couple of years, it was getting even more violent because people were becoming more frustrated. There were times that I thought it looked like a third world hospital. There would be people stacked up in the hallways. The waiting room for the emergency room would just be full. People upset, people yelling, people laying on the floors. People brought back on gurneys and just left in hallways because there wasn't enough rooms for them. And because the nursing staff had, in so many cases, been treated so poorly by the hospital, who was getting a lot of money from the feds, that I won't go into why, it would take too long on this one. They were making their money off of federal money for certain procedures, and I think you know what I mean. And the nursing staff there was burned out. The physician staff was burned out. The physicians are kind of kept in that situation because they work for their groups and they're assigned there, but nurses aren't. I mean, they can leave. They can go someplace else, and a lot of them did. They were treated very poorly by the administrations of the hospital because the hospitals really now are not run by medical people. They're run by marketing and lawyers, and their whole purpose is to maximize profit. And so they would cut the scheduling to the bone. You would go in there and have just an unbelievable number of patients per nurse, and that's not something you want in an ER. And so the good ones were leaving, and the good ones had almost all left by the time I left. And so it was just a real zoo. The last week I was there, there were nurses in the ER from India, Africa, and the Philippines. And half the time, they couldn't understand each other. The patients couldn't understand them. They couldn't understand the patients. I couldn't understand them. I would hear them yelling back and forth to each other, nobody understanding each other. This has really been one of the things that is bringing about the continued collapse of the healthcare system. And now, instead of taking a look at what at one time was the greatest healthcare system in the world, trying to make things better and employing Americans, because there are millions of young Americans out there that if they thought it was a decent career to go into, they jump at it, because it doesn't pay bad. It pays pretty well, okay? I mean, not for what you do. I mean, I see what the nurses do. I wouldn't want to do it. But instead of paying well and treating their people right, they view their nursing staff as disposable. Now they just want to ship in 25,000 more from overseas. The people who need care in our country, whether it's American citizens or anyone else, are simply not going to get the quality of care that they would have gotten by those who have left the system. Experienced nurses who have left. And I know there are still experienced nurses out there. But from the one place with which I'm familiar, pretty much all, not all, but almost all of the top-notch nurses have left. And the ones who haven't would like to. So I'm sure it's just a matter of time. Those are the things those are the latest indicators of the collapse of our country. I've given thought to the name change for the channel. A couple of you have given me some good suggestions. I'm continuing to think about that. But these are the problems that are just a few of the problems that are hitting us right now. I think I'll stop it there, because I think that's enough to think about. I'd love to hear your all's thoughts, as I always do. Every time I put out a new video on this channel, I see more and more comments. The quality continues to be increasing. Like I say, everybody learns from the comments. So I look forward to that. Think about these. Share with any of your friends who may not be aware of these things, because so often the masses are not aware of what's going on until it's way too late to get anything fixed. I don't know if it's too late to get things fixed now. We'll see. But let your friends know. And prepare against this. Because these are the things that you're going to be dealing with. You're dealing with them a little bit now. I think we're all going to be dealing with them a lot more in the very near future. So with that, I will say goodbye. I hope you all have a good day. Remember that America needs a reversion or something, and it needs you to be a part of it. And if you'll share this with your friends and give me a like and all that, I'd sure appreciate it. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.